My phone rang at 3:08 in the morning. Not buzzed, not a text, a full call. And not from anyone who should ever be calling me at that hour. It was Lily. I didn't need to think. I was already sitting up before the second ring. I answered on the first. Grandma? Her voice was low, tight, controlled in a way that didn't match the words that came next. I'm at Riverside. My wrist, it's broken. A pause. Dad said I fell. Another pause. I didn't. I was already standing. Is he there? I asked. Yes. That was all I needed. Stay where you are. Don't say anything else. I'm on my way. She didn't ask questions. She didn't explain. She just said, okay, and hung up. I was dressed in under 3 minutes. Not rushing, just efficient. There's a difference. You don't spend 15 years working compliance in a hospital system without learning how to move fast when something doesn't add up. Keys were where they always were. Phone in my left pocket, jacket on the hook by the door. I was in the car by 3:12. Columbus is quiet at that hour. Empty streets. Red lights that stay red for no one. The kind of silence that makes every decision feel louder. Here's what I knew as I drove. Lily doesn't call at 3 a.m. unless something is very wrong. She doesn't say I didn't unless she's been told to say something else. And she doesn't whisper unless someone is close enough to hear her if she doesn't. This wasn't a one-night situation. It just finally reached the point where she picked up the phone. I pulled into Riverside Methodist Hospital at 3:28. Parked closer than I probably should have. No one was around to argue with me about it. I sat there for a second after turning off the engine. Not because I needed to calm down, because I needed to decide exactly how I was going to walk into that room. There's a difference between reacting and taking control. Most people don't notice it. I do. I got out of the car. The ER doors slid open like they always do. Bright lights. Too bright for that time of night. A nurse at the desk looked up already halfway through asking a question before I even reached her. I'm here for Lily Lawson, I said. She glanced at the screen, then back at me. Family. Yes. She nodded and pointed down the hallway. Room 4. The doctor is with her now. I walked. Steady pace, not fast, not slow. People think urgency looks like running. It doesn't. Urgency looks like knowing exactly where you're going. I heard his voice before I saw him. Ethan. Calm, even, explaining something. She's always been a little clumsy, he was saying. Missed a step on the stairs. Happens. I stopped just outside the curtain for half a second. Then I stepped in. Lily was on the bed. Left arm in a temporary splint. Sitting very still. Ethan stood beside her, one hand resting lightly on the rail like he belonged there more than she did. A doctor stood across from them, chart in hand. Ethan turned his head when he heard me. And for a moment, just a moment, he didn't say anything. Not surprised. Not confused. Just stopped. Mid-thought, mid-sentence. Like something had shifted in a way he hadn't planned for. Then he smiled. Mom, he said, you didn't have to come all the way down here. It's under control. I didn't answer him. I looked at Lily. She looked back at me. No tears, no drama. Just that same tight control I heard on the phone. I turned to the doctor. I'm her grandmother, I said. I'd like to speak with her alone. Ethan let out a small laugh. There's really no need for that, he said. We already explained what happened. I didn't look at him. I wasn't asking you. The doctor hesitated. Just a second, long enough to notice. Ethan shifted slightly beside the bed. She's fine, he said a little firmer this time. We don't need to make this into something it's not. I finally looked at him, and that's when I saw it. Not anger, not panic, calculation. He was already adjusting, already figuring out how to keep control of the situation. I've seen that before. Different setting, different people, same pattern. I turned back to the doctor. I need a minute with my granddaughter, I said, alone. Another pause. Then the doctor nodded. Of course, he said. Let's give them some space. Ethan didn't move. For a second, I thought he might argue. Then the nurse at the doorway stepped forward just slightly. Not enough to make a scene, enough to make a point. Ethan exhaled. Fine, he said. I'll be right outside. He walked past me, close enough that I could hear him under his breath. This is unnecessary. The curtain closed behind him. The room got quieter. I pulled a chair up next to Lily's bed and sat down. Same level, same eye line. I didn't rush her. I didn't fill the silence. I just waited. She looked at the door, then back at me. And finally she spoke. Grandma, she said barely above a whisper. And then she stopped. Like she was deciding whether to keep going. I leaned in just enough so she didn't have to raise her voice. Start wherever you want, I said. She kept looking at the curtain like it might open again. I didn't follow her eyes. I stayed where I was still quiet, giving her space to decide. Her fingers tightened slightly against the blanket. He said I had to tell them I fell, she said. Flat, careful. Like she had already practiced the sentence and was now choosing to say it the way it actually happened. I nodded once. Okay. No reaction, no interruption, just acknowledgement. That's usually enough to get someone to keep going. She looked at her arm, then back at me. I didn't fall, she said again, a little stronger this time. I know. That made her pause. Not because she was surprised, because she was checking if I really meant it. You do, she asked. Yes. She let out a small breath. Not relief. More like she'd been holding it long enough that it finally came out on its own. I leaned back slightly in the chair. Tell me what happened, I said. She didn't start right away. She was organizing it, putting it in an order that made sense. It was after dinner, she said. He asked me to come into his office. Of course he did. About the account, she added. There it was? What account, I asked, even though I already had a pretty good idea. The college one, she said. The one you set up. I kept my face neutral. What about it? He said I needed to sign something she said. He said it was just paperwork. That it wouldn't change anything? And you believed him, I asked. She gave a small, quick shake of her head. Number. That didn't surprise me. What did you do? I said I wanted to read it first. Smart. And he got annoyed. That was the word she chose. Not angry, not mad, annoyed. That told me more than anything else she could have said. What kind of annoyed? I asked. She hesitated. The kind where he smiles, she said. But it's not really a smile. I almost smiled myself at that. Not because it was funny, because it was accurate. I know that one, I said. She nodded. He said I didn't need to understand it, she continued. That he already explained it, and that I was making things harder than they needed to be. And then I said I wasn't signing anything. That's when it shifted. I could hear it in the way her voice changed. And then he stood up, she said. I didn't interrupt. He came around the desk, she added, and he told me I was being disrespectful. That word again, disrespectful, a favorite. What did you say? I asked. Nothing, she said. I just backed up. Where? Into the hallway. I pictured it without needing more detail. The distance, the angle, the way people move when they're trying to create space without making it obvious. And then I said, he grabbed my arm. Her eyes dropped to the splint. Tight, she added. Like really tight. How long? I don't know, she said. It felt like a long time. It usually does. And then he twisted it. There it was. No extra drama, no exaggeration, just a sentence. He said if I didn't sign it, I was going to regret it, she continued. I stayed quiet. I told him to let go, she said. And he didn't, so I pulled back. And that's when it broke, I asked. She nodded. I heard it, she said, before I felt it. That matched what I knew about fractures. What did he do next, I asked. She let out a short breath. He let go right away, she said. And then he changed. Changed how? Like it didn't happen, she said. He started talking really calm. Said it was an accident, said I slipped. Said we needed to go to the hospital and just keep things simple. Of course. And your mom, I asked. She wasn't there, Lily said. She left earlier. That simplified things. So it was just you and him, I said. She nodded. He told me what to say in the car, she added, over and over. What exactly? That I missed a step, she said. That I tried to catch myself? That's how I landed. And you said it. I tried, she said. That word again, tried. But I asked. But I didn't say it the same way he did, she said. And he kept correcting me. I let that sit for a second. And when you got here, I asked. He stayed with me the whole time, she said, answered everything, didn't let me talk. I nodded once. That matched what I walked into. She looked at the curtain again. Is he still out there? She asked. Yes, she swallowed. He's going to be mad, she said. I leaned forward slightly. Listen to me, I said. She looked at me. You did exactly the right thing by calling me, I said. Her expression shifted just a little. What happens now? She asked. I held her eyes. Now I said, we make sure no one else tells your story for you. There was a knock at the curtain. Not loud, just enough to be heard. I didn't turn right away. Do you want me to stay? I asked her. Yes. Good, I said. Then I stood up and pulled the curtain back. Ethan was there. Same posture, same calm expression. Like nothing had changed. Everything okay in here? He asked. I stepped into the opening just enough to block his view of the bed. We're fine, I said. He glanced past me anyway. Doctor said it's a clean fracture, he continued. They'll get her set up and we'll be out of here soon. We're not leaving yet, I said. That was the first time his expression slipped. Just for a second. Mom, he said, lowering his voice, there's no need to complicate this. I looked at him. It's already complicated, I said. He smiled again. That same version. You're overreacting, he said. I didn't respond. Behind me, I could hear movement in the room, the shift of someone standing, paper against a clipboard. The doctor stepped forward slightly, just into the edge of the curtain. Ma'am, he said to me, I'd like to ask a few more questions about how the injury occurred. I nodded. That would be a good idea, I said. Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes this time. I already explained what happened, he said. The doctor looked at him. I'd still like to hear it again, he replied. That was when I knew something had already started to change. And it wasn't coming from me. I stepped slightly to the side so the doctor could see Lily clearly. Lily, he said gently, can you tell me what happened? She didn't answer right away. Not because she didn't know. Because she was calculating. I could see it in the way her eyes moved, not to me, not to him, but to Ethan. That was the habit. Before answering anything, check the room, check who's listening, check what version is allowed. I shifted just enough to block that line of sight. You can look at me, I said quietly. She did. And for the first time since I walked in, her shoulders dropped a fraction. I didn't fall, she said. The doctor didn't react outwardly, but I saw the pause, the kind professionals learn to hide. Okay, he said. Then what happened? Ethan stepped forward. Look, he said, tone tightening just slightly. She's shaken up. She doesn't need to relive. The doctor raised a hand. I'd like to hear from her, he said. That was the second shift. Small, controlled, but real. Lily swallowed. He grabbed my arm, she said. No embellishment, no drama. Just a sentence. The doctor nodded once, like he was logging it, not reacting to it. How did he grab it, he asked. She demonstrated slightly with her good hand, touching just below her elbow. Here, she said. And then he twisted it. Another pause. Ethan let out a short breath through his nose. That's not what happened, he said. No one responded to him. The doctor glanced down at the chart, then back at Lily. Did you hit anything when you fell, he asked. I didn't fall, she said again. Same tone, same control. That repetition mattered. The doctor turned slightly, looking toward the imaging screen behind him. I'd like to take another look at the x-rays, he said. He stepped out, pulling the curtain halfway closed behind him. Ethan didn't wait a second. Lily, he said, voice low but sharp. You need to be careful about what you're saying. I turned toward him fully this time. No, I said. She doesn't. He looked at me, that same calm expression snapping back into place. You're making this bigger than it is, he said. Kids say things when they're upset. Kids also don't usually rehearse how to describe a fall, I said. His jaw tightened. Mom, he said, this isn't your place. I didn't raise my voice. It became my place at 3:08 this morning, I said. That landed. He didn't respond right away. Instead, he shifted again, resetting, looking for another angle. I was handling it, he said. You didn't need to come down here. Behind him, Lily let out a breath she'd been holding. Small but noticeable. That told me everything. This wasn't new. This wasn't one bad night. This was a pattern, and I'd seen pieces of it before. I just hadn't put them together fast enough. There was the email from her school counselor back in October. The one that said Lily had seemed withdrawn and left the conversation early. I remember reading it and thinking it didn't quite add up. Then November, Thanksgiving dinner. Lily barely spoke the entire night. That had never happened before. She used to be the loudest person in the room. Ethan answered for her more than once. At the time, I told myself it was just teenage mood swings. It wasn't. December. She stopped coming over during the holidays. Ethan said they were keeping things simple this year. I didn't argue. I should have. January. Her texts changed. Short, neutral, delayed. Not how she normally talked. I remember sending her a message about a book she liked. She replied 2 days later with sounds good. That wasn't her voice. That was a safe answer. February was when I stopped guessing and started paying attention. I invited her to lunch on a day I knew Ethan was out of town. She showed up 10 minutes early. That alone told me something. People don't show up early unless they need the time. We sat at the kitchen table. She ate fast. Not messy, just efficient, like she didn't want to waste the window she had. Halfway through, she glanced at her phone. Not to check messages, to check if it was still where she left it. I didn't ask. I didn't push. I just watched. When she finished eating, I stood up and walked into the other room. Came back with an old phone I hadn't used in years. I slid it across the table. This one's not connected to your dad's account, I said. No tracking, no shared plan. She didn't ask why. That's how I knew she understood. If you ever need to reach me, I added, and you can't use your regular phone, use this. She picked it up, turned it over once in her hands, then slipped it into the inside pocket of her jacket. Not her bag, not the table, the inside pocket. Harder to find. That wasn't luck. That was experience. We didn't talk about it again. We talked about school, friends, normal things. Then I drove her home, watched her walk up to the door, and waited until it closed before I pulled away. That was 3 months ago. And tonight at 3:08 a.m., she used it. The curtain moved again. The doctor stepped back and holding the imaging. He didn't go to Ethan this time. He came straight to me. I'd like to speak with you for a moment, he said quietly. Ethan opened his mouth. The doctor didn't look at him. Just a moment, he repeated. I nodded and stepped out with him into the hallway. He held the x-ray up to the light panel. Fractures like this, he said, pointing, are usually caused by a twisting force. I didn't say anything. They don't typically happen from a simple fall, he added. I looked at the image, then back at him. I understand, I said. He lowered his voice slightly. Is there someone else who should be involved? He asked. There it was. The question behind the question. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Yes, I said. There is. I stepped a few feet down the hallway before making the call. Not far, just enough to keep my voice out of that room. I scrolled once and hit the number. Angela Ruiz. She picked up on the second ring. Angela, it's Maggie Lawson, I said. I'm at Riverside. I need you here. No small talk, no explanation, yet a pause. What's going on? She asked. 15-year-old, wrist fracture. Mechanism doesn't match the story being told in the room. I've got prior behavioral concerns and documentation from school. Another pause, shorter this time. I'm on call, she said. I'll head in. Good. I ended the call. When I turned back, Ethan was standing just outside the curtain. Of course he was. He crossed his arms. Who are you calling? He asked. Someone who knows what to do with this, I said. His jaw tightened. You're blowing this out of proportion, he said. It was an accident. I didn't argue. I just looked at him and waited. People like Ethan don't like silence. They fill it. I already explained everything, he added. The doctor understands. The doctor is asking questions, I said. That's his job, Ethan replied quickly. Doesn't mean anything. It meant everything. I stepped past him and back into the room. Lily hadn't moved. Same position, same careful stillness. But her eyes shifted to me the second I walked in. What did he say? She asked quietly. He's doing his job, I said. Now we do ours. She nodded once. That was enough. I sat back down beside her. We're going to go through this one more time, I said. Slow, clear, just facts. She took a breath. Okay. I didn't ask new questions. I let her tell it again. That matters. When someone tells the same story twice without changing the core details, that's not rehearsal. That's consistency. It was after dinner, she said again. Same starting point. He asked me to come into his office. Same structure. The paperwork was already on the desk. She added that detail this time. What kind of paperwork? I asked. I don't know exactly, she said. But it had my name on it. And your name. That got my attention. What did he say it was for? He said it was about the college account, she said. That he needed to move things around. Move things around. That's never a good sign. And you said no. Yes? Why? She looked at me. Because he wouldn't let me read it, she said. Good. What happened after you said no? He told me I was being difficult, she said. That I didn't understand how things work. Classic. And then he stood up, she said. Came around the desk, told me to sign it. And you didn't. Number. Her voice was steady now. Not loud, not emotional. Just steady. And then he grabbed your arm. Yes. Show me. She pointed again. Same spot, same motion. And twisted. She nodded. How hard? She hesitated. Hard enough that I couldn't pull away, she said. That's a useful answer. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, specific. What did he say while he was doing that? I asked. She swallowed. He said I was making things harder than they needed to be, she said. That if I just signed it, everything would go back to normal. Normal, that word again. And after it broke, he let go, she said. Right away. Then what? He changed, she said. Like, instantly. Explain that. He started talking calm, she said. Said it was an accident. Said I slipped. Said we needed to get to the hospital and not overcomplicate things. That was the script. And in the car I asked. He kept repeating it, she said, over and over. What exactly? That I missed a step, she said. That I tried to catch myself. That's how I landed. And you said it. I tried, she said again. Same word, but not the way he wanted. Number. I nodded. That matched what I walked into. Did he tell you not to say anything else? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she nodded. Yes. Specifically, he said not to confuse people, she said. That doctors don't need the whole story. I almost laughed at that. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. There was a soft knock on the curtain. Angela stepped in, mid-40s. Calm, no wasted movement. She looked at me first, then at Lily. Hi, she said gently. I'm Angela. I work with the hospital. Lily nodded. Angela didn't sit right away. She gave Lily a second to adjust. That okay if I talk with you for a bit? She asked. Lily glanced at me. I nodded once. I'll be right here, I said. Angela pulled a chair over, sitting at the same level. Not across, not above. Same level. Can you tell me what brought you in tonight? She asked. Simple question. Lily answered. Same story, same order, no change. Angela didn't interrupt, didn't lead, just listened. About halfway through, Ethan pushed the curtain open. Is this really necessary? He said. Angela didn't turn around immediately. She finished writing one line on her pad, then looked up. Yes, she said. Ethan stepped inside anyway. This is my daughter, he said. I have a right to be here. Angela stood. Not aggressively, just enough. I'm going to ask you to step outside, she said. His expression hardened. I'm not going anywhere, he replied. Angela didn't argue. She turned slightly toward the doorway. Could we have security come by, please? She said calmly. Not loud, but loud enough. That changed things. Ethan looked between her and me, then back at Lily. For a second, it looked like he might push it. Then he exhaled. Fine, he said. I'll be right outside. He stepped back through the curtain. This time it stayed closed. Angela sat back down. She looked at Lily. Thank you, she said. You're doing exactly what you need to do. Lily nodded. Not confident, but not shutting down either. That was progress. Angela finished the interview, closed her notebook, then looked at me. We'll need to file a report, she said quietly. I understand, I replied. She held my gaze for a second longer. There will be next steps, she added. I nodded. I'm aware. She stood. I'll start the process, she said, and walked out. I stayed where I was for a moment, then stood up. Lily watched me. What happens now, she asked. I picked up my phone. Now I said we make sure everything that just got said doesn't get ignored. I stepped back into the hallway. Ethan was there, leaning against the wall, waiting, like he still thought this was something he could manage. He straightened when he saw me. Are you done? He asked. I looked at him. No, I said. Not even close. I walked past him without stopping. Not fast, not slow. Just enough to make it clear I wasn't engaging on his terms anymore. He followed. Of course he did. Maggie, he said, lowering his voice like that was supposed to make it more reasonable. We don't need to turn this into something official. I kept walking. This is already official, I said. That's not what I mean, he replied. You know how these things go? Reports, questions. People get the wrong idea. I stopped, turned to him. That's exactly the idea, I said. He held my eyes for a second, measuring, adjusting again. Then he changed tone. You really think I would hurt my own daughter? He asked. That question wasn't for me. That was for the hallway, for anyone within earshot. I didn't take the bait. I think you grabbed her arm hard enough to break it, I said, and then tried to explain it away. He shook his head. That's not what happened. You've said that, I replied, and left it there. Behind us, I could hear movement at the nurse's station, low voices, phones being picked up, the rhythm of a place that had quietly shifted from routine to something else. That's how it usually starts. Not loud, just different. Angela was already at the desk when I reached it. She looked up as I approached. I've submitted the initial report, she said. CPS will receive it within the hour. I nodded. Police, I asked. Standard protocol, she said. When there's a suspected injury to a minor with conflicting accounts, they're notified. Good. No gaps. What do you need from me? She asked. Nothing right now, I said. You've got what you need from her. Angela studied me for a second. You've done this before, she said. Not like this, I replied. That was true. But the structure, the system, that part I understood. Behind me, Ethan shifted his weight. This is unnecessary, he said again. You're escalating something that could have been handled privately. Angela turned to him. Sir, this isn't a private matter, she said. It's a safety concern. He gave a short laugh. Safety, she slipped. Angela didn't respond. She didn't need to. That silence was doing more work than any argument. I stepped slightly to the side. Angela, I said, I'll be contacting legal counsel. She nodded. That would be appropriate, she said. Of course it would. I pulled my phone out again. Scrolled once. Daniel Klein. He answered on the third ring. Daniel. It's Maggie, I said. I need you at Riverside. A pause. What happened? Minor? Wrist fracture? Mechanism inconsistent with reported cause. Social worker has filed. CPS is being notified. There's also a financial component I'll explain when you get here. That last part got his attention. I'm on my way, he said. Good. I ended the call. Ethan was watching me closely now. Legal counsel, he said. Seriously? Yes. For what, he asked. For exactly what you think, I replied. His expression tightened. This is getting out of hand, he said. No, I said. This is getting documented. That word landed. Documented. He didn't like that one. People who rely on controlling the story rarely do. You're making me look like something I'm not, he said. I looked at him. You're doing that yourself, I said. That was the first time his composure cracked in a way that wasn't controlled. Not loud, just thinner. He exhaled sharply. You always do this, he said. You always assume the worst. I didn't respond to that either, because that wasn't the conversation anymore. A uniformed officer stepped into the ER, mid-40s, calm, not in a rush. He spoke briefly with Angela, then glanced in our direction. Angela nodded toward us. He walked over. Evening, he said. I'm Officer Grant. Margaret Lawson, I said. He nodded. Sir, he added, acknowledging Ethan. What's going on here? Ethan asked. The officer didn't answer that directly. I understand there was an injury, he said. I'd like to get a clear timeline of what happened. I already explained everything, Ethan said quickly. She fell. Officer Grant turned to me. Ma'am, he asked. I kept it simple. She reports that he grabbed her arm and twisted it, I said. No embellishment, no adjectives, just the fact. The officer wrote that down. Okay, he said. I'll need to speak with her directly. She's already spoken with hospital staff, Ethan said. I understand, the officer replied. I still need to hear it myself. Same pattern, same shift. Ethan looked between us. This is ridiculous, he said. No, the officer said calmly. This is standard. That word again. Standard, meaning not optional, meaning this was now bigger than anything Ethan could control in that room. The officer stepped toward the curtain. "I'll speak with her now," he said. He paused, looking back at both of us. "I'd prefer to do that without interruption." Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it, because even he knew where that line was. The officer pulled the curtain aside and stepped in. Angela followed. The curtain closed again, leaving the two of us in the hallway. Ethan shifted his stance. Different now, less confident, more contained. "You don't have to do this," he said. I didn't look at him. I watched the nurse's station instead. The movement, the notes, the calls being made. "I already did," I said. And this time I didn't have to raise my voice for him to hear it. I leaned against the wall across from him and opened my notes app. Not because I needed to, because I wanted him to see it. Writing things down changes how people behave. It makes things feel real in a way talking never does. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Keeping track," I said. His jaw tightened again. "You always did like paperwork," he said. "That's why this is happening," I replied. He didn't like the answer. "Good." A nurse walked past us, glanced once, then kept moving. Subtle. But she had heard enough to know this wasn't routine anymore. Ethan shifted his stance. "You really think this is about control?" he asked. "I'm trying to manage things. That's what parents do." I didn't respond right away, because now we were getting to the part he thought I didn't understand. "The account," I said finally. He stilled, just slightly. "What about it?" he asked. "You asked her to sign something tonight," I said. "It was paperwork," he replied quickly. "Routine stuff. For a 529 plan you don't own?" I asked. That landed. He didn't answer immediately. "I'm her father," he said instead. "That's not what I asked." Silence. A short one, but long enough. "You've been trying to move money out of that account," I said. "That's not illegal," he snapped. "It is if you're not authorized to do it," I replied. He took a step closer, lowered his voice. "You don't understand how finances work," he said. "Things need to be repositioned, optimized. I'm trying to help her." I almost smiled. "By asking a 15-year-old to sign documents she's not allowed to legally consent to," I said. He didn't answer that. Instead, he shifted again. "Different angle? She lives under my roof," he said. "Everything connected to her is my responsibility." "No," I said. "Everything connected to her is your responsibility to protect, not to leverage." That word hit. Leverage. Because that's exactly what this was. Not just control. Utility. He looked away for a second. Not long. Just enough to reset. "You're twisting this," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm matching it." That's when Daniel walked in. Suit slightly off for the hour, but still put together. He didn't waste time looking round. He came straight to me. "Maggie." "Daniel." He nodded once. "Give me the short version." "Physical injury inconsistent with reported fall," I said. "Minor states forced compliance tied to financial document." "Social worker filed." "Police on site." He processed that in about 2 seconds. "Where is she?" "Room 4. "And him?" I tilted my head slightly. "Right here." Daniel turned to Ethan. They sized each other up in a way that didn't need words. "I'm Daniel Klein," he said. "Counsel for Margaret Lawson." Ethan crossed his arms. "I don't need a lawyer," he said. "That's fine," Daniel replied. "You're not mine." That shut that down. Daniel turned back to me. "You said financial component." "Yes," I said. 529 plan. I'm the account owner. He's been attempting to move funds. Tonight he tried to get her to sign something." Daniel nodded. "Do you have documentation?" "Not the form he used tonight," I said. "But I have account records and prior communication." "Good," he said. He glanced toward the curtain. "And the injury, confirmed by physician as inconsistent with fall mechanism," I said. "Perfect," he replied. Ethan let out a short laugh. "Perfect," he repeated. "You think this is perfect?" Daniel didn't look at him. "I think it's documented," he said. That word again. Documented. Ethan shook his head. "This is insane," he said. "You're turning a family situation into a legal case." Daniel finally looked at him. "You already did that," he said. "We're just catching up." That landed clean. Ethan stepped forward. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said. Daniel didn't move. "I know enough," he replied. "And more importantly, I know how this works." The curtain opened. Officer Grant stepped out, followed by Angela. The officer looked at me. "Ma'am," he said, "we've taken her statement." I nodded, and I asked. He kept his tone neutral. "Her account is consistent with what you described earlier," he said. Of course it was. He turned to Ethan. "Sir, I'm going to ask you a few questions as well." Ethan exhaled slowly. "This is unbelievable," he muttered. But he didn't refuse. Because at this point, refusing would mean something else entirely. "I've already told everyone what happened," he said. "I understand," the officer replied. "I still need to hear it directly." Same script. Different authority. Ethan glanced at me. Then at Daniel. Then back at the officer. "Fine," he said. He stepped a few feet down the hall with him. Angela stayed where she was. She looked at me. CPS has been notified, she said quietly. They'll assign a case first thing in the morning. I nodded. Temporary safety planning, I asked. Yes, she said. We'll need to address discharge placement. Understood, I said. That meant one thing. She wasn't going home with him? Not tonight. Angela watched me for a second. You're prepared for that? She asked. Yes, I said, because I had been preparing for months. Just not like this. Inside the room, I could hear Lily moving slightly. The quiet kind of movement someone makes when they're finally not being watched every second. Daniel leaned closer to me. We should file for emergency custody, he said. Ex parte. Given the injury and the financial angle, we have grounds. I agree, I said. Judge on call should be reachable before morning, he added. Do it, I said. He nodded and stepped aside, already pulling out his phone. Across the hallway, Ethan was still talking to the officer, explaining, adjusting, trying to rebuild a version of events that no longer fit the facts on record. For the first time since I arrived, he looked like someone who had run out of room to move, and the system hadn't even finished with him yet. I watched him while he talked to the officer. Same posture, same tone, controlled, measured. But there was a difference now. Before he was leading the room. Now he was responding to it. That shift matters. Officer Grant asked a question. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I saw the reaction. Ethan paused. Not long, just long enough. Then he answered. Too fast. People who are telling the truth don't rush to fill silence. People who are adjusting a story do. Daniel stepped back over to me. Petitions being drafted, he said. We'll file for emergency ex parte custody. Judge on call should review before morning. Good, I said. Angela remained near the doorway, watching both the hallway and the room. She didn't interfere. She didn't need to. The system was already moving. Inside the room, Lily shifted again. I stepped back in. She looked up immediately. Is he still out there? She asked. Yes, she nodded. That was enough information for her. No follow-up, no panic, just awareness. I pulled the chair back into place and sat down. Doctor's going to come back in a minute, I said. They'll set your wrist properly. Okay. She hesitated. Am I going home? She asked. Not emotional, just direct. I leaned forward slightly. No, I said, not tonight. She held my eyes. Okay. No argument. No pushback. That told me more than anything else. Kids who feel safe going home ask different questions. She didn't ask where she was going instead. She just accepted that it wasn't there. A nurse stepped in with supplies. We're going to get you ready for a proper cast, she said gently. Lily nodded. The nurse worked efficiently. No extra conversation, just small, steady instructions. Hold still for me. Let me know if that hurts. Normal tone. That matters too. Normal makes things feel stable when everything else isn't. I stepped back to give them space. When I moved into the hallway again, Ethan was no longer talking. He was listening. Officer Grant had his notebook out, asking questions in a slower rhythm now. Walk me through it again, I heard him say. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. I told you, he said. She slipped. Where exactly, the officer asked. On the stairs. Which stairs? Another pause. In the hallway, Ethan said. There's more than one set in that house, the officer replied. That was deliberate. Pinning details. Testing consistency. Ethan shifted his weight. The main ones, he said. Officer Grant wrote something down. Lighting condition, he asked. Ethan blinked. What? Was it well lit? The officer repeated. Yes, Ethan said quickly. Of course. And she just slipped. Yes. Did she hit anything on the way down? Number. I didn't move. Didn't react. Just listened. Because every answer he gave was locking him into a version of events that didn't match what was already documented. Angela stepped closer to me. Once the cast is on, we'll finalize discharge planning, she said quietly. She's coming with me, I replied. That aligns with what we're recommending, she said. Good. No resistance there. Daniel joined us again. Petition is filed, he said. We should have a decision within a couple of hours. Understood. Ethan finished with the officer and walked back toward us. His expression had changed again. Not calm, not controlled. Tight, contained. You're really doing this, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said. For what he asked, so you can prove a point. No, I said. So she doesn't have to. That stopped him. Just for a second. Then he shook his head. You always thought you knew better, he said. I don't need to think, I replied. I'm looking at it. He let out a sharp breath. This is going to come back on you, he said. You're dragging family into the system. I held his gaze. You brought the system in when you made her lie to a doctor, I said. He didn't respond. Because there wasn't a clean way to respond to that. The doctor stepped out of the room. Cast is set, he said. She'll need follow-up in a couple of weeks, but structurally it looks stable. Thank you, I said. He nodded, then hesitated. Social worker mentioned next steps are being arranged, he added. Yes, I said. He glanced once toward Ethan, then back at me. If there's anything else you need medically, let us know, he said. There it was again. Subtle alignment. Not loud. Not declared. Just Clear. I appreciate that, I said. He nodded and moved on. Ethan watched him go, then looked back at me. You think this makes you right? He said. No, I said. I think this makes things accurate. He gave a short, humorless laugh. You're unbelievable, he said. I didn't answer, because at this point, belief wasn't relevant. Facts were. Angela stepped forward again. We'll need to confirm discharge placement now, she said. With me, I said. Ethan shook his head. That's not happening, he said. Angela didn't argue. She just turned slightly toward Officer Grant. He stepped in. Sir, he said, given the report and the current situation, she won't be leaving with you tonight. Ethan stared at him. You don't have that authority, he said. Officer Grant met his eyes. For tonight I do, he replied. That was the moment. Not loud, not dramatic, but final in a way Ethan hadn't prepared for. He looked at me, like I was the one who had taken something from him. I didn't move, because I hadn't taken anything. I had just made sure it stopped being hidden. And for the first time since I walked into that hospital, he didn't have a version of the story that worked. I signed the discharge paperwork while Lily sat beside me, her arm now set in a clean cast. The nurse went over the instructions. Keep it elevated, watch for swelling, come back if anything changes. Routine. That word again. Everything about the moment looked routine, except it wasn't. Angela handed me a short packet. Temporary safety plan, she said. CPS will follow up within 24 hours. I nodded. Understood. She looked at Lily. You did exactly what you were supposed to do, she said. Lily didn't respond right away. Then she nodded. Small, controlled, but different than before. Less guarded. Angela gave her a soft smile and stepped away. Daniel came over holding his phone. Judge signed, he said. Emergency ex parte custody is in place effective immediately. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Good. That gives us legal ground to keep her with you while everything moves forward, he added. That's all I need right now. He nodded. I'll handle the rest in the morning. Thank you. He looked at Lily once, then back at me. You did this right, he said. I didn't answer that. Because right is a relative word. We walked out of the ER just before sunrise. The sky was starting to shift. Not bright yet, but no longer fully dark. Lily stayed close to me, but not in a way that looked like she needed protection every second. Just close. I opened the passenger door for her. She got in without hesitation. No looking back. That mattered. I walked around to the driver's side and got in. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then she leaned her head back against the seat. He's going to be really mad, she said. Probably, I replied. She nodded. Another pause. Am I in trouble? She asked. I turned slightly toward her. For what? For not signing, she said. No, I said. That's the one thing you did exactly right. She absorbed that. Slowly. We pulled out of the parking lot. The roads were still mostly empty. Different kind of quiet than earlier. Less tense. More open. About 10 minutes into the drive, she spoke again. I thought no one would believe me, she said. I kept my eyes on the road. That makes sense, I said. She glanced over at me. You didn't even ask if I was sure, she said. I didn't need to, I replied. Why? Because of how you said it, I said. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? You didn't try to convince me, I said. You just told me. That sat with her. I almost didn't call, she admitted. I nodded. I figured. She looked down at her lap. I didn't think you'd answer, she said. I glanced at her. I always answer your calls, I said. She gave a small, quiet nod. We drove the rest of the way without much conversation. No need to fill the space. When we pulled into my driveway, the sun was just starting to come up over the houses. Soft light, nothing dramatic. I parked the car and turned it off. You can take the room on the left, I said. It's already set up. She looked at me. You knew. I prepare, I said. That got the smallest hint of a smile. Inside the house felt exactly the same as it always had. That was intentional. Same furniture, same layout, same routine. Predictable is safe. She walked in, looked around once, then headed straight for the couch. Sat down, exhaled. Not tense, not bracing, just exhaled. I went into the kitchen and started coffee. Not because I needed it, because normal routines matter after abnormal nights. A few minutes later, I brought her a glass of water. Drink this first, I said. She took it, didn't argue, finished half of it in one go. You can sleep if you want, I added. She shook her head. Not yet. That was fine. We sat there in the quiet. No questions. No explanations. Just space. After a while, she spoke again. Are they going to make me go back? She asked. No, I said. Not today. Not like this. She nodded. Then leaned back into the couch. A few minutes later, her eyes closed. Not suddenly. Gradually. Like someone who finally realized they didn't have to stay alert anymore. I watched her for a second, then got up and grabbed a blanket. Covered her carefully so I didn't disturb the cast. She didn't wake up. That was the first real sign. Sleep. Not light. Not restless. Actual sleep. I stepped back into the kitchen and leaned against the counter. The house was quiet again, but not the same kind of quiet as before. This one didn't feel like something was waiting to go wrong. It felt like something had already been stopped. I thought about the last few months, the emails, the short replies, the way she checked her phone before answering anything, the dinner where she barely spoke, the look on her face when I handed her that old phone. I should have moved sooner. I knew that. I had enough to ask harder questions, to push, to step in earlier. But I waited for something clearer, something undeniable. That's the mistake. You don't wait for things to become obvious when you already know they're wrong. I looked back at her on the couch, still asleep, still safe. And I realized something that mattered more than anything that happened in that hospital. She didn't call because she ran out of options. She called because somewhere in all of that, she still believed one thing would hold, that I would answer, and that if I answered, I would come. I didn't say any of that out loud. Not to her, not that morning. Some lessons aren't meant to be explained. They're meant to be lived through and then recognized later when things are quiet again. What I did know was this. Most people think situations like this explode out of nowhere. They don't. They build, slowly, quietly. In small moments, people ignore because they don't look serious enough yet. A changed tone, a missed call, a kid who stops talking the way they used to. We wait for proof, something undeniable. But by the time it's undeniable, someone's already been living in it for a while. If there's anything worth taking from this, it's simple. Pay attention early. Trust what doesn't feel right, even if you can't explain it yet. And if someone reaches out to you, even in the smallest way, take it seriously, because that might be the only moment they feel safe enough to try. This wasn't about winning anything. It wasn't about proving a point. It was about making sure the truth didn't get rewritten by the loudest person in the room. And sometimes the strongest kind of response isn't loud at all. It's steady, it's patient, and it shows up exactly when it's needed. That's what real protection looks like. And sometimes that's what real family looks like too. If stories like this matter to you, real family drama, real decisions, real consequences, then you're in the right place. This channel is about family revenge stories, and revenge stories that don't rely on shouting or chaos, but on truth, timing, and knowing when to act. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, because some stories don't just entertain you. They make you see things you might have missed in your own life.